it's still just a meal. On one side are leftover rice boxes from charity programs. On the other side is a lavish banquet, delicacies from the mountains and seas, and expensive wine. Two opposing worlds, yet they coexist in the same country. That country is India, the world's fourth largest economy. It has the third largest number of millionaires in the world, only after the United States and China, yet it is among the top 44 countries with the highest poverty rates on the planet. This paradox has existed for centuries, but why? This is Anant Ambani, the son of one of Asia's richest billionaires, Mukesh Ambani. In July last year, the lavish wedding of Anant Ambani and Radhika Merchant, daughter of a pharmaceutical and steel tycoon, caught the attention of global media. The wedding cost as much as $600 million. Not only did it draw attention for its extravagance, but it also gathered a powerful guest list, from top billionaires and world leaders to A-list celebrities from around the globe. Meanwhile, just 3 kilometers away from the wedding venue is Dharavi, the largest slum in the world, where people live side by side with rats and cockroaches. The average population density here is 1 million people per square kilometer, meaning each person has only 1 square meter, literally standing shoulder to shoulder, which is terrifying even to imagine. Not to mention basic utilities like electricity, clean water, and sewage systems are in extremely short supply. Currently across India, about 93 million people are living and surviving thanks to slums like this. According to the World Bank's 2024 report, India still has about 129 million people living in extreme poverty, with incomes below $2.15 per day, equivalent to around 10% of the country's total population. Every year, more than 800 million people in this nation must rely on the government's food security program. The 2024 Global Hunger Index ranked India as one of the hungriest countries in the world, placing 105th out of 127 countries. Although there are no official statistics on the number of people who die of hunger each year, these stories still happen every single day in India. I live day by day, not knowing if I will have food to eat tomorrow. I'm not sure if I can survive this hunger. When my children cry because they are hungry, I feel like I should just end my life instead. Shared by Ms. Naren Khatun with Vicewar News. In 2020, 5-year-old Sonia Kumari from Ogra district, Uttar Pradesh, also passed away after going hungry for 15 consecutive days. The cases of Ms. Khatun and little Sonia are just 2 among millions of heartbreaking stories of hunger in India. Meanwhile, the number of billionaires in India continues to grow daily. From 2018 to 2024, India is estimated to have added 70 new millionaires every single day. The richest 1% of Indians hold more than 40% of the nation's wealth, while the poorest 50% own only 3%. While India has billionaires ranked among the world's wealthiest, millions of others are still waiting for death because they lack food. This is a reality that has always existed in this country. The root of this paradox has been deeply embedded in India's social structure for thousands of years. The caste system. That is the core reason behind the wealth divide in Indian society. It is a form of social stratification based on origin and inherited status. Here, poverty is not simply a lack of money. It is the chains of status and injustice legitimized from generation to generation. This is a complex and enduring structure that has shaped Indian societies for thousands of years. The system originated more than 3,000 years ago. This was the period when the Vedas were compiled. The philosophical foundations of Hinduism were also formed during this time. Along with it came the emergence of an early form of social division called Varna. This is the Varna system. According to it, society is divided into 4 social groups, representing 4 social classes. At the top are the Brahmins, meaning the priestly class, scholars and religious leaders with the ability to connect with the gods. Second are the Kshatriyas, representing warriors and kings, those who govern and protect the country. Next are the Vaishyas, referring to farmers, craftsmen, and merchants. Their role is tied to economic activities, contributing to the nation's prosperity. Finally, the Shudras, or the laboring class, who perform manual tasks and serve the 3 higher classes. However, there is still another group not listed in this system, the Dalits. They do work considered impure, such as cleaning toilets, slaughtering livestock, or handling corpses. They are seen as unclean and placed outside the social structure. Initially, the Varna system was created to assign occupations with relative flexibility, But over time, under the influence of various ruling powers, it was transformed into a more complex caste system in society called jati. Importantly, jati exists not only among Hindus but has also spread to many other religious groups in India. Especially during the colonial period, the British administration exploited this system, turning it into a tool for governance and control. From then on, caste was no longer just a matter of faith. It became an undeniable reality. People born into one caste had to die in that caste. Marrying across castes was strictly forbidden. If a man from a lower caste dared to marry a woman from a higher caste, their children would be classified as untouchables. People from lower castes were obligated to show respect to those from higher castes. They were also not allowed to live in areas designated for higher castes. Even the law at the time was discriminatory. The severity of a punishment depended on the caste of both victim and offender. For the same crime, a person from a lower caste would be punished more harshly. If the victim was from a higher caste, they would receive more compensation. And most importantly, you could not escape your caste no matter how talented or hardworking you were. In essence, these rules were tied to Hindu beliefs. Being born in a low caste meant paying for sins from a previous life, while high status was seen as a reward for past virtue. Injustice was therefore not challenged, but accepted as part of the cosmic order. In Hindu scriptures, it is written that even a Brahmin under 10 years old could be considered the father of someone from a lower caste, even if that person was 100 years old. Over thousands of years, this thinking became deeply ingrained in the consciousness of the people. Even though the Indian Constitution banned caste discrimination in 1950, in reality, caste still quietly dictates every aspect of life, from who gets to go to school, who gets hired, to who can access land, credit, or even clean water. In reality, someone born as a Dalit already has a very low chance of attending a good school. If they do study, the chances of being hired by companies are still extremely low. If they want to start a business, they have no inherited assets and no access to credit. By contrast, higher castes often own land, have strong social networks, educational traditions, and therefore have opportunities to accumulate and pass on wealth over many generations. That is why, even though India's economy grows rapidly, wealth is still concentrated mainly in a small minority with pre-existing privileges. Worse still, violence against communities considered inferior is becoming increasingly severe. In 2022 alone, according to data from India's National Crime Records Bureau, there were as many as 57,582 crimes committed against these communities, including murder, rape, assault, and property destruction. The paradox in this inequality is also fueled by a severely imbalanced economic development. Cities like Mumbai, Bengaluru, and Hyderabad have risen as dynamic financial and tech hubs, attracting global investment. Some states like Maharashtra, Gujarat, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu are developing strongly with modern infrastructure, smart cities, and high-tech zones. But on the other hand, many states like Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Jharkhand, and Chhattisgarh remain deeply trapped in poverty. Infrastructure is outdated, and people mostly rely on agriculture and central government aid. The per capita GDP of Goa, one of India's richest states, can be 8 to 10 times higher than that of Bihar, one of the poorest. Adding to this, India's tax policy also widens the wealth gap. India once imposed a wealth tax as a tool to target the ultra-rich, but it was abolished in 2015. By 2019, corporate taxes were also drastically reduced, while indirect taxes surged. Basically, this kind of tax works like a value-added tax applied to each product or service. For example, when the government levies this tax on a manufacturer, the company will add the cost to product prices. So even though indirect taxes are not directly charged to consumers, they are the ones who bear the final burden. All citizens pay it regardless of income level. In other words, a poor worker and a millionaire both pay nearly the same tax when buying a bottle of cooking oil or a pack of butter. The burden of indirect taxes has driven up living costs dramatically. And in a country where hundreds of millions live below the poverty line, this is like pouring fuel onto the fire of hunger. It cannot be denied that the Indian government has made many efforts in the fight against hunger and to reduce inequality. Right after gaining independence in 1947, the country launched a series of large-scale social programs, from rural development, food distribution, and free education to preferential policies for people from lower castes. One of the most notable policies is the reservation policy. This is a mechanism that grants priority to people from lower castes in public universities, government agencies, and parliament. Similar to racial affirmative action policies in the United States, the aim is to create fair opportunities in employment and education. However, this policy faces two major problems. First, the benefits do not always reach the right people. Many relatively well-off individuals within lower caste benefit from it, while those who are truly poor are left behind. Second, it provokes resentment in the middle class. They feel excluded from opportunities despite working hard, simply because they are not eligible for priority. As a result, instead of easing inequality, this policy deepens social divisions. In addition, the Indian government has also implemented many poverty reduction programs, notably the public food distribution system that sells food at extremely low prices or even gives it away free to the poor. The state buys rice and wheat from farmers at stable prices, stores it in national reserves, and distributes it through local ration shops and subsidy points. However, these programs have not been highly effective because they lack sustainability. Subsidies only solve the immediate problem without creating a long-term path out of poverty. Another fundamental reason lies in the severe corruption within the administrative system. This program receives a great deal of funding from billionaires and international organizations. However, the fund still regularly faces shortages. In reality, millions of tons of food disappear before reaching the people. According to a survey by Transparency International, 5.36 million households living below the poverty line had to pay bribes to access basic services, most of it to obtain food ration cards, which were supposed to be their entitlement. A typical example is in Uttar Pradesh, the state with the largest number of poor people in India. Many food distribution points falsified the number of recipients. Over 60% of the food supply was lost and sold on the black market. Even those whose names were on the official list could be removed without reason. It is estimated that about 100 million people in need of food assistance are not on the program's list. Despite repeated calls from the government to clean up the bureaucracy, India has remained among the most corrupt countries in the world for over 30 years. And that is the vicious cycle the world's fifth largest economy has yet to escape. Food subsidies, free education, and preferential policies for the poor. The common trait of these programs is that they only address the symptoms of the problem. As long as the caste system exists, the poor will remain imprisoned in the fate they were born into. According to 2025 data from the International Monetary Fund, IMF, India has officially surpassed Japan to become the world's fourth largest economy. But India's per capita income in 2025 is only about $2,800. It doesn't even rank among the top 100 countries in GDP per capita. India holds many advantages to continue its rise, but it is being held back by the very inequality within its society. The truth is, an economy cannot grow sustainably if the majority of its people lack the ability to spend. The government must continually provide subsidies to the poor instead of collecting taxes from them. This increases the burden on the national budget. Moreover, inequality causes a serious waste of human resources. India is one of the most populous countries in the world. It has more than 600 million young people under the age of 30. But it has failed to fully harness this advantage. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, over 25% of the youth population in the South Asian country falls into the NEET category. Not in employment, education, or training. This so-called demographic dividend could quickly become a national burden. In reality, India's school dropout rate is very high. Unskilled workers can only take on manual, low-paying jobs. Many women are excluded from the labor force because of social barriers. Growth that is not inclusive is like building a skyscraper on a cracked foundation. It may take a very long time for India to eliminate this inequality. A $600 million wedding can amaze the world, but right next door, hundreds of people are struggling to decide whether to eat today or save their food for tomorrow. Not because they are lazy, not because they haven't tried, but because they were born on the bottom rung of a social ladder built thousands of years ago. India is a great economy, that is undeniable. But what does that greatness mean if it belongs only to a few?